Welcome everybody back to Nain's Shorts. I have a very special guest today. You may recognize her from our Konversation episode, the nutritionist Futaba Takashima, owner of Physique Magnifique here at 387?
387 Grand Avenue, South San Francisco.
So whenever you're in the area, come by. This is our home. Thank you, Mom, very much for having us here. I know you're busy, you're in between clients, but we wanted to show the people that you are real. We're not just making stuff up.
I do exist.
And what kind of things do you guys offer here at the gym? Well, where's the programs going nowadays?
Down here on this level, we have, of course, we have boxing. We have kids boxing, teen boxing, adult boxing.
Oh, wow.
As well as we have Olympic lifting back there. And upstairs, we have, of course, personal training, just general gym membership. What else? Oh, and group classes. And
those are starting again.
Yes, and
Wonderful.
on the other basement, we have jiu-jitsu and Zumba.
Ooh, is yoga coming back?
Yoga is still online.
Still online,
Yes.
okay.
Yes.
All right, so yoga is still online, but we do have a lot of other programs to
Yes.
offer. Thank you so much, Mom, for stopping by.
Oh,
We
thank
just
you
wanted
for
to show the
inviting
people.
me.
No, thank you for having us here. This is our home, and we love you so much for it. And we love this place. It's a wonderful place to be. And you really do feel like family here. So
Oh,
thank you.
you.
That's why we call her Mom. Also because she could probably kick our ass. Fine. So thank you very much for joining us. I know you're
you.
busy. You have a wonderful day, my dear.
I will.
Yeah.
And I hope to see you guys soon.
Oh yeah. We'll bring somebody back. We just had to bring her up. Again, if you do not remember Futaba, please look up the Konversation, the nutritionist, and she will scare the ever-living crap out of you. Seriously. Because some of the things we don't know about food, oh my God. But, now that we've done that, let's move on to the thought of the week, really. Because this is really more of an idea. And I don't know how conceptualized it is as much as it is just a thought process that came up recently where it's all about knee-jerk reactions, panic responses. Something is thrown at you, oh my God, and you automatically just throw your hands up. Something's coming in your face and you extend out. And despite the fact that I've been training for 8 years now, I still get panic responses. I still just kind of move. But at what point do those responses become trained responses? And are we really focused on them being that way, or is that just what happens? Because ultimately, it's still a panic response. Sure, it's no longer, now and you move into something else because you have trained other things to go along with it. But where does it start? How do we grow out of it? Can we really track it as students, as instructors in our students? And can we play with that idea, knowing that it's going to happen, to help grow their training or push them in the direction that we feel they need to go? Now, we'll touch more on what we think and where students should be going based on our teachings, but let's start off at the beginning. Since we're little, we've been conditioned to protect ourselves. Whether it's innate or we see other people do it, we automatically learn how to cover our face because this is our bread and butter. This is our money maker. So we have to keep it intact. But more importantly, that's where our brain is. It's the control center of everything. So I think part of it really is just animalistic to protect your head. That's what keeps you alive. That's what keeps everything functioning. You find out later in training that there's so many other parts to the body that could cause great harm, but we're not going to go into the anatomy of it right now. But since we're little, we learn to protect. We learn to throw our hands up. We learn to and just whenever we start training as a new student, those things are there. They're constantly prevalent because how often have you as a student gone to a new school, or when you were a white belt, when you were just starting off and your blocks would be all the way up here? That's not necessary, but yet instinctually we throw our blocks up. We get everything really high because either we're exaggerating the motion or we don't understand what the purpose of this is. And the way that we take in information is then kind of skewed a little bit because we have nothing else to attach it to other than, oh, this is protection. But that's not necessarily the best way to go about it. So it does take repetition over time to get good muscle memory, to be able to do something that's a bit more compact, a bit more useful for what you're trying to do in that system. Now, when I first started, I'd get incredibly comfortable with 3 movements. And that's all I did. I would repeat the 3 motions over and over and over again. And after the second or third time, whoever I was playing with could go around it and hit me right away. So that became detrimental to me. I became so comfortable and that became so instinctual, certain movements, that it started hurting me because I couldn't get beyond that point. So as I was training, at one point, everything that I did in muscle memory was so ingrained in me that it took even longer for me to break out of it so I can do something different. And it really boiled down to not the physical training. That part I had down. I did it all the time. I did hundreds of repetitions a day, hitting a tree that no longer grows bark on that side because, well, that's how committed I was to it. But it wasn't until I understood the pitfalls, the negative aspects of training it that way, of making it muscle memory, of making it a knee-jerk reaction to move in that way, to do those 3 movements, that I started to understand the purpose of the movements and how I can take them beyond that singular moment. Because this is a great combination when it's used at the right time for the right situation, but not for all situations. And that's where I started to really grow, when I finally realized that just because something works here doesn't mean it's going to work everywhere else. And if it's so ingrained in you to do it continuously, then that's what's going to come out. And not always when you need it to. And yet, it's still, in a sense, a panic response when it's outside of a controlled environment, when it's outside of your school where you know what angles of attacks are coming or what type of punch is coming. And I didn't see that as clearly as when I first went to a tournament. My first tournament, I was super nervous, super excited, and I was told, don't try to win, just do what you do and see if you can maintain that. And I didn't fully understand that until afterwards. Because I see all these other participants and they were doing these wonderful moves and these great combinations as they were practicing and warming up. And then we got into the ring. Oh, actually this is good. We got into the ring and then they're going outside and they're practicing and they're moving and you see all this fluidity. Then they say go and you see them doing this. And that tripped me out because I was still trying to do the combinations that I was taught to do at the right time. But it was a little unnerving to see that because all of a sudden I'd hit them and then they'd kind of wobble with their stick, not unsure of whether they should block or hit. There was that panic response once again. Now, it wasn't intentional, and there's a lot to be said about training the adrenaline rush that you get in situations like that. And maybe they weren't there. We were just beginners. We weren't doing it for very long. It was my very first tournament. For a lot of them, it was 2. So I understand that nervousness. But that's why we train. Isn't that the reason why we train? Is so we have control of those movements, even though inside and the adrenaline is running and we're in a panic because we have no idea what that person in front of us can do, despite the fact that we're wearing helmets. Some of them were wearing pads. The sticks were padded. But it's scary. When you don't know, it's scary. And through repetition, you get comfortable. Then you get comfortable with the idea, oh, I'm not going to get hurt. That person's not out to kill me. So I can now all of a sudden do the combos that I was taught to do. Hit the head, back away, hit the head again, run, hit the weapon hand, move out of the way, and attack. Again, still within the confines of the movements that you learned in muscle memory, but with less of a panic response because you were able to overcome that through experience. Over time, as you train things, you kind of get a repertoire. Is that a good word? Anyways, there's a certain amount of things that you do and you do them well because they're comfortable, and that's what becomes almost your signature movement. You see it all the time, and the thing about it, for those of you who can use them really well, most people can never tell that you're doing the same moves over and over again because there's slight variations that you adjust to the situation, especially in a controlled environment. But then again, you take the same person, me who's been doing what I've been doing for so long, and put me in a different class, I'm a newbie all over again. Because I was taught not to be the kind of guy that goes in and be like, oh, that's not how we do it, so I'm going to do it my way. No, I was taught to be respectful of the class, of the instructor. So when I'm in a different class in front of a different instructor, I'm going to do what they asked me to do. My ideas are going to stay at the door. I still evaluate things based on what I understand, but I do my best to understand what they're telling me and why we do what we do. Why is it a low stance? Why is my hand stopping here, my other hand by my elbow? All these ideas that are not my own, that I haven't trained, I want to understand them, but still, despite my confidence in my learning ability, I was being taught an outside lock, right? And the very first thing that I did, like a white belt would, I went really high. And I had to be corrected. I said, you don't have to go that high. You can do it right here. And this is enough. And once again, I still went a little high. At that point, I've been training for 7 years. I have a pretty good sense of control of myself. But now I'm in a different environment, in a different art altogether. One that I didn't understand the purpose behind the movement itself. And once that sunk in, this became a lot simpler. This became more organic. Because it's now become the understanding of why we do things, including why do we respond in a panic, that allows us to then overcome that knee-jerk reaction and turn it into something that can be useful later on. Case in point. Rick, would you mind joining me?
Oh.
Can you
Sure.
wear your glasses? No, thank you.
Hey everybody, we're at Full House today.
Hi. So just yesterday, we were this far away from each other, contact range. Rick asked me to throw a punch. And before I did it, he throws one. Oh, see, even that. Okay? Now, yesterday's he threw a straight punch and I brought it back down. This time, he wasn't moving as fast, so I wasn't actually scared like I was yesterday, because yesterday I was genuinely scared. Because you said throw a punch, I'm about to throw it, and like, oh shit. And then you did that. So that was the scenario yesterday. Today, I didn't feel that panic, so I was like, oh, okay, I just kind of stepped into it. So the point of contact was behind my hand and behind my chin. But even still, are these trained responses or are these panic responses?
Right.
And the thing about it is that him and I kind of have a bit of a difference of opinion in that, because yesterday I felt really panicked. I did. I was like, oh shit. But because I've trained a certain way, I didn't step back. I didn't lose my footing. I actually stepped forward, and the moment that I felt his hand, I threw mine out. Sure, he was guarding himself, so I didn't actually make contact. But I still followed through and continued the instructions that were given to me, despite the fact that something was thrown completely out of whack. Because he never said, oh, I'm going to punch you before you throw yours out. So, panic response, yes.
Right.
But because it's become more understandable as to why I would bring my hands up automatically, as to why I wouldn't stand this close to somebody who's being aggressive and having my hands down. All these things that become habits can now be used with that rush of adrenaline. Because if he were to throw wide punches at me and I'm this, and he just keeps throwing, he keeps throwing, he keeps throwing. And look, and all I'm doing is what any person untrained or otherwise would do, just block their face. But at any point, I can take command of that. I let all of that happen because we're illustrating something. Is that even though this is the most basic of panic responses that somebody could have against somebody that's attacking them violently, randomly, it can become so much more. So as he throws something, a stalemate.
No.
Are you kidding? Really?
You asked. Sorry, folks. You asked. Stalemate. Never.
Alright, I might have been a little arrogant on that one.
Sorry. Am I free to go?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. 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 Yeah, that was a bit of a panic on my end because I wasn't expecting to fall down. And see, that actually brings up a good point. If we understand not just the process that our students and ourselves really take these natural reactions, these natural movements, from raising our hands to dropping them, from extending out to coming in. These are very natural movements, things that come out instinctually, like when we fall and we stick our hands out, versus when a judoka falls, they drop on their hands and elbows. Why? Because it's safer, because you won't break something in case you snap or roll. But that was a panic response, all of it. And Rick took it to a different level. And not only does he use it for teaching methodology, which I'm steadily learning how to use for new students, he also uses it combatively. Because if you can understand how the human body will naturally react, if you push it ever so slightly in the direction that you want it to go, the person's brain is going to complete that motion. We're not just talking about feints and letting your brain think, oh, a punch is coming, so you block. That's one aspect of it. Definitely. And it's a high level skill to have for those who do sports competition, to get a good feint where the person literally puts their guard up even though a punch was never actually thrown and opens up all these other targets. It takes a lot of skill. But what Rick did in this little encounter is that he raised his shoulder ever so slightly, which gave me a sense of wanting to separate, which raised my arm even more. So I was fully extended, which means my point of contact was where most of the weight was. So when he kicked out my leg, my natural response was to fall forward and put my hands up. No, we didn't choreograph that, folks. No, that wasn't something that we intended to illustrate, but it is what we're talking about. It's taking the minutia of movement, the little things that we think are innocuous, that we do on a regular basis on daily lives, and understanding them so well that not only can we help students grow in the direction that they need to grow within our teaching styles, within our systems, but also maybe becoming a tool for fights that have no choreograph, for fights where you really need to get out and get the best of a situation that you have no control over. So, just an idea, just something to mull over. Thank you for joining us on here another one of Nain's shorts. This is the first time. Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe, share the video. There is a donation button, people, so please feel free to donate because this is all out of pocket. And if you like the content, we would love to continue putting out more as much as we can. So thank you very much for joining me. Till the next one. 3, 2, 1, cut!